Hello, this is Lisa Lee, and welcome to this week's Pick a Card reading. We're going to tackle the subject of money and financial freedom. This is important, and when we have a spiritual practice that is about walking towards the reality of a situation and not escaping it, that's when the gods really show up. I find that to be absolutely true. And so I want to encourage you to, it's an uncomfortable topic, it's a difficult topic, and the advice that we're going to be getting from our guides is going to be in a lot of ways practical. So I invite you to begin to think about what it is to engage with this with like some hope for assistance in a way that you can actually, grasp and work with. And also there's a promise here. And we hear a prosperity gospel all the time. Every different belief system sells some version of it. And it's, if you believe hard enough, you will achieve this goal. And that often fails, and there's so many reasons why that fails. Manifestation is as good as like where your unconscious mind is, more than where you want to be. And so we're going to be looking at our unconscious influences, our blockages around money, because the promise that our guides bring us in the way of prosperity, it comes with like a little caveat. Our guides are basically saying you will have prosperity, but you won't have it without effort. And so you have the effort to put into it in one way or another, even if that might be something that you question. But there is a strategy to putting the effort in right. And so that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Take a deep breath, connect with your ascended ancestors and your ascended guides. The timestamps will be below if you want to go by the numbers. Otherwise, just take a moment to meditate and see what pile pulls your attention. There's a lot of economic upheaval, so how that's going to affect people, it's going to be different. So this is pile number 1. This is pile number 2. And there is a cat hair there. And pile number 3. The bottom of the deck energy is Mercury. And so if Mercury calls to you, it's possible that all 3 piles are for you. If not, take a look at the numbers of the timestamps and just see what is going to be your pile. All right, let's start pile number 1. Okay, pile number 1. So since we're working with our guides, like I do feel certain tenderness with the, let's take a look and see what our cards inspire. With the fog card. Yeah, I felt like a tenderness. Like there's something about a lack of clarity, a lack of being able to like see like what would be prosperous? Like what should I be doing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I wasting my time in this place? Is this the right environment? Is this the right culture? Can I thrive here? Is it, what do I want? How do I want this to be? What do I want it to look like? Do you like what you're doing? Do you not like what you're doing? And so there's this, there's not being able to see through the fog, not really getting the clear picture. Some of that has to do with not having had proper mirroring, not really seeing yourself clearly. And so there's some aspect here where your guides are saying, one of the first things we want to look at in terms of a blockage is in your area of giftedness, where you excel. You know what the things that are like sort of effortless for you are, but what about those things like leads somewhere? What does it look like for those things to be operating for you in a way that like there's some work here that it's like hard for you to really see who you would be doing this sort of a thing. Like it's hard for me to explain. Let me get a couple more cards. And so they're sort of coming in very gently with Happy Heart, River Path, and Candle of Hope, and Empowering Friendships. Okay, so there's some fog. There's something in the way that you're not being able to see yourself clearly that does come down to like relationships, friendships, not doing something by yourself, being able to trust other people. There's a jumpiness in you that is kind of like, I feel like that it's sort of like a jumpy defensiveness, and it's not a negative thing. It just means that wherever you're coming from, and with the vine and the fence, like there's some programming around like, so with the fog of like, I don't know exactly where I'm supposed to be or what it looks like for me to be in this position. Like with the Empowering Friendships here and the Happy Heart and the River Path and the Candle of Hope and the Fence. Yeah, so the fence is about boundaries and creating boundaries so that you can build what you were meant to build. So one of the first things that your guides are pointing out in terms of a blockage is that you haven't either you're young and you haven't been in the world long enough, or you're in some major transition where you haven't been in the new environment long enough, or like you were not prepared for adult life and that was its own experience. So with the fog there and not really being able to fully see what you're supposed to be doing, what your value in that place is, what your success looks like and what you would be successful and like how that would be appreciated. There's some rare skill or a certain kind of ability that it's hard to commodify in one way or another. And so with the vine and the fence and the empowering friendships, like these are almost two opposite ends of a pole. There's a need for you to have boundaries, and there's something about you having like extremely tall boundaries, maybe even like the kind of boundaries that might even alienate you a little bit. And so with the candle of hope being something very valuable to give to the world, no question about it, but it's also delicate, it's also precious, it also requires some form of protection. If you hold your candle out for the world in a windstorm, you're going to be frustrated that like the wind is so annoying. Like, why does it keep blowing it out? I'm here to bring light, right? So there's something really pretty about that. Like intention, I'm here to bring light, but then your light deserves a cover. It requires a cover. And part of mothering what it is that you have to offer into the world is understanding that, yes, you need to have proper boundaries. That means you need to have a sense of the world that you're in. You need to reckon with the world that you're in. You need to accept the world that you're in. And you need to work from that place. And that can be really hard. That can be like a moral injury. And so with the happy heart and the river path, meaning bringing your heart to the game of life, and it is kind of a game, unfortunately. Should it be? Absolutely not. Is that something that is forced upon us? Yes. So how do you win? When it comes to the economy, when it comes to financial freedom, one of the first questions that we have to like attend to is if the entire situation is engineered as a game and you on the moral high ground like don't want to play it, you can win is what the guides are saying. They're saying, yeah, but you can win. Like, I understand that it's like morally offensive, like the stink of having to like go on that, field of like competition, to bring yourself into a place where you are being perceived, to face all of that fear, whether it is at the job, anywhere where you go, where you want advancement, you have to be perceived. And so when you face what that means, and when you face why that fear exists and why you are afraid of it, then you can begin to engage with, yes, I'm afraid of this, but I can win. And so rather than sit with the fear as if the fear has all the authority or everything that you're capable of, because sometimes we can feel like that and sometimes that can be real. And we're going to talk about that a little bit with the candle of hope. But with the happy heart and the river path, what is meant for you is good. Like, it can be very easy because I'm seeing a flow state. But in order for that flow state to be facilitated, you need to achieve mastery. And so I'm being given the example of the bicycle. When you're learning how to ride a bike, you're not hitting a flow state with that bicycle. The only way you might be able to get to a point where you can get on the bike, and I think that this is true for whoever I'm talking to. You might be able to like get on the bike at the top of a hill and balance your way down. But if you don't understand the mechanism of pedaling, you have to walk it up the next hill, and then you're going to be like behind in the race, right? And so your guys are saying one of the things that they want to help you with is to build like so that the river can flow. Like, you have this flow of inspiration, you have this flow of creativity, you have a beautiful mind. You have a beautiful mind. But in order for that, like the power of that river to get you somewhere, this is where the ecosystem comes in. Nature is something that we're supposed to contend with, not as a competitor. This idea that nature is a competitor is not true. Nature is about optimizing cooperation. And so optimizing cooperation means that if there's something or someone that is not in that cooperative flow, like it usually gets recycled back in, in another spot because it's not. And so there's this whole thing about this river of inspiration and the innovation that comes with saying, I want to use the power in this river and the inspiration to get me where I'm going. And that means I have to build a boat on it. That's innovation, that's nature, that's cooperating with nature to make something of yourself, to expand yourself, to innovate something, to create something of the problem that needs to be solved. And it's not even a problem, it's an opportunity. And so when we begin to regard nature, it's about innovation. The economy is the counterfeit, right? And so with every real thing, there's a counterfeit. In fact, the entire experience of Earth is sort of a sorting, where you're either going to align with the counterfeit or you're going to align with the real. You know, there's the real, and for every real person, there's an imitator, right? So there's always the counterfeit. For every real thing, love, there's the lust. There's always the counterfeit. And so what our guys are saying here about, like, if we're not an ecosystem, which is the natural way, and we have to contend with economy, which is a competition, it's unnatural, it doesn't feel right, it's not justice, you know, it's a harsh environment for you to bring a candle into. Your guys are saying, but you can win, and you can win by tapping into like ecosystem mindsets. And one of the ecosystem mindsets that you're going to take, and I love the train coming through, that's like Hecate energy, is that to get where you have to go, you need to be able to innovate. To innovate here, to be able to like create the right boundaries for whatever this light is, to be able to figure out that like the river moves fast. And if you are able to like stand on it, you can move fast with it. Well, can you stand on something that floats? This can all be done with a happy heart. It can be done with a happy heart, or it can be done with a terrified heart. And so one of the first things that you guys want to say about like the blockage is you may not be able to see your way through because you're still figuring out the world around you and how it works. And you're getting lessons as you go along. And so your guides want to sort of help you build the right kind of boundaries, not the kind that keep people out or keep influences from like you can't be a fortress of solitude and also like show up to like connect with the people, right? So when we think about how you're going to find the innovation to get where you're going, part of that is going to be working with what boundaries you need around what you're trying to create. And there's something here with your gifts and your flow state. So like let's get some more cards so we can kind of travel with this. Mercury is about communication on the bottom of the deck there. And so I do think that like with the fog, like what are you communicating? What do you want to communicate? What does it mean for you to practice communicating? How can that communication actually like foster connection? And how can you take that communication and bring it to the right environment? So there's a lot of innovation that has to go in with whatever it is that you're trying to reap by abundance. So you guys are saying whatever your inspiration is, it's this candle. It needs protection, it needs the right boundaries, and you also need to take down the fortress of solitude boundaries that are kind of keeping you from the right connections. And so when we think about your financial freedom, one of the first things that your guides want to illuminate for you is that you don't have a bad idea, but you need to nurture this in the right way. And if there is like some sort of a like disorientation at the level, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm good at. This is, I don't know what I'm good at. I really don't know what's like where I shine most. There might be some, with the Sagittarius here, there's a journey to take with that. And the Mars is, there is action that you need to take on that. There's action that needs to be taken with the self-discovery, because your path, that river path, you're going to get there fast. And it's not going to be difficult because it's going, whatever that activity is, it makes your heart happy. It makes you feel sustained. It makes you feel healthy. So the activity that makes you feel alive, that you can enter flow states with, is a big signifier of what you're meant to be doing. So if you can't see your way to where you're going, think about what you excel at and why, and really begin to like to start to sort of like contemplate that is how you get where you're going quickly. What are the things that you're really good at? Make a list. That's how you're going to get where you're going really quickly. With the candle of hope being something that is important, something that is going to bring you abundance. It's an idea, it's a hope, it's a dream. But there's no way to do this with, if you take that candle and you put it into a storm, it's going to get blown out. And you've learned that. And you've been like, I'm give up. I'm not going to give my candle. I'm not going to bring my light. But your guys are saying, no, how about we innovate? And we make a strategy and that's how we relate to the ecosystem. When the ecosystem puts up a block, we innovate. How can I do things differently? This isn't working. What is the not working telling me about what I need in order to, you know, find my way forward? And so your guys are saying you do need to sort of think about the strategy that, because it's almost like your guys are saying, it's like you take the idea and you're like, it's a good idea, look, you know, and then it gets blown out. What is it blown, you know, and that is like making you so that you can't hope. And your guys are saying, no, like it's a good idea. Why do you keep on showing it to the wind? Right? And so that vine, that fence, like what kind of healthy boundaries And what does it mean to contend with healthy boundaries? Because one of your biggest blockages is bringing like your goods and what you have to offer to the wrong places because of an immediate need to have a reaction, like to have that feedback come in. And that feedback is then what you're using in order to guide yourself on your path. And your guides are saying, no, like you have something really valuable to offer. If you're not really sure what it is yet or where it's supposed to be, we're going to work on other stuff around that in order for this to feel safe enough to come to the surface. And so we need to work on what it means for you to have empowering connections. You need to be empowered. It's not just that like you can't see what it is and you're not sure. There's a way in which this is not going to make itself known until you feel safe. And if you don't feel inherently safe in an economy that operates like a predator because it's a counterfeit, that's understandable, but you need a strategy. Think about the windstorm where you have this light. It's precious, it's valuable, it's like going to illuminate, and then people can see. Like it's really something that you ought to be able to sustain yourself with. Like this is important. Your financial freedom, you're deserving of it. You do bring something of value, but the environment, the economy is the predator. In place of a natural predator, we have a fake predator called the economy. And it doesn't bring innovation. It's just there to, you know, it's disgusting. It's a horrible system. We're in a bad situation. But you're not meant to be shut down by that. So when you think about like the thing you have is of value, bringing it into the world, it means that you're gonna hold up your candle in a storm and it's gonna get blown out, and you know that. You've already seen that, and you want to give up. You're not gonna give up. You're gonna innovate. You see that the river can get you somewhere quickly. Now you have to figure out what it means to find something that floats. Now you have to tie those pieces together that float. Now you make a boat. So your guides are saying for that clarity to come in, you first have to stop fighting with the fact that it's not easy, because it's not supposed to be easy. Because if it was easy, you would have done it already. And so you know it's going to be hard. And so if you know something is going to be hard, then what your guides are saying is you have to allocate the proper energetic resources. So it's going to be hard. So you need the energetic resources to do it. You don't really know what it is. Well, you're going to build your muscle around the stuff that you have a flow state with. And you're going to figure out how to make that flow state innovate, float, and get you where you're going. What are you really good at? Some of you are really good actors. I just want to say that. I'm not saying that as I'm saying this because I'm seeing an array of people in our group. Like I'm seeing, like, you know, not just like it's a collective. So I can see different like archetypes. And a lot of you are really good actors. Oh my gosh. And the things that you love and that you're interested in, you can channel those things. It's a psychic ability. Every art is a psychic ability, and every art is channeled when it's true. And for some of you, there is something about shape-shifting that is really beautiful. And so what would it mean for you to change your focus from a performance, you know, of something that you love, that is like a performance that you have to sort of uphold and do really well and never fail at, and, you know, people like, or actually understand that, like, I love that scene and I love that scene and I love that scene, and when I am performing a scene, I go into a flow state and I lose myself, and it's beautiful. Now that is something that you can bring into the world because you know what it is that you love, you know what it is that you're good at, and you know what it is to now build a boat on that river's power to get you where you're going quickly. And so that candle of hope being like, I know I have something to offer, I just don't know what I'm good at. But you have to look at, what are you good at? What are you really good at? You're good at being an A student, and everybody is like always like so proud of you. Okay, you can get there. The performance is good. That's not a bad thing. That's not a dig. That's a look at the asset you have. If you are a great performer, if you can perform as an A++ front of the class every single time, if you can perform the role to it like such excellence that you lose yourself every single time. I'm seeing like the wife. If you can perform the role so well that you like forget that you don't even know that you're there. So what does that tell you about your magic? That there's a shapeshifter quality to you. What can you do with it? Well, that's where the innovation comes in. And so the Sagittarius and the Mars and the empowerment is like, you get empowerment and you get a better handle on this fog when you have a better sense of what you're really good at. And what you're really good at might not be what you're doing or the way that you're doing it, either or. And so let's get into it with the Sagittarius. It's like your guys are like, there's some way in which they want to bring you into what makes you happy. What do you get that instant flow state? You're so good. Oh my gosh, like 100 miles an hour. Like, how did you do it? Wow. What is the thing that happens? Because there's a skill gap that we always encounter when we think about the journey, you know, the journey to Camelot or whatever, the hero's journey. There is this moment where you have a skill set that you kind of like, you see the landscape, you're going to paint it, right? But the skill isn't there. The landscape, the vision, that sun, that light, the way that comes through, but I'm going to add a unicorn because I'm cool and I can see it. But then you can't paint it because when you go to paint, it's like this horrible nightmarish thing happens and like it looks like a 5-year-old did it. And that's because you need to attain a level of mastery. You need to be able to ride that bike. And so there's a call to learn how to ride the bike, because once you learn how to ride a bike, once you make a boat, then that flow can take you very, very quickly where you're going. And so there's always going to be a skill gap. But the skill gap is very, like, it's enjoyable to engage with when you are doing what you love in the right way. It's really difficult to engage with when there's like this weird drive that's influencing it. And the drive can be so many things. Sometimes our drive to get to know a person that we really like is to like do everything that they really like really, really well so that we can get in orbit of them. But that's a motivation to connect. And it might be a motivation to connect because they remind us of our mother and we don't know that. And then we're having a failure rate with what we're trying to do because we don't understand, because we have common interests, then we should be able to do the same things. That's a good example of how we get misdirected and we're not doing what we are purposed to do, and we're somehow disconnected from the power of that river of our strengths because we are creating ourselves in the image of the object that we desire, of the person that we desire. That's a really big way in which we fail ourselves over and over again. Another thing is you can do that with a role, the artist. In our culture, the iconic in our culture, you know, the superstar in our culture, the content creator in our culture. These are roles that we can be like, this is what I want more than anything. And I'm going to do it because it's the most important thing that I've ever wanted to do. And I'm going to have it. And our guys are showing me a TikTok, and there was a TikTok. What the heck was that? I can't credit what I don't. I want to credit everybody because it's artistic integrity. When we talk about our sources is so important. Otherwise the gods get mad. But the TikTok was saying that, gosh, I lost it because I fell into my own hurt. But there's something here about let me get back to the reading because I did kind of get off track a little bit there. Yeah, sometimes we can make ourselves in the image of the thing that we think is going to solve all our problems. If we've been heavily neglected and heavily abandoned and we've lived a life of orphaning and rejection, then the thing that we're going to want most in the whole wide world, more than anything in the world, is to have the stage and be able to speak our truth from it, because nobody listened ever. But then we might have a really hard time and we might find ourselves striking out at the level of the stage because that's not what we are purposed for. That's what we are forming in defense of. And so sometimes we can go 100 miles an hour with the thing that we are operating with in defense of. And that's not our greatest strength. And so like when we're kind of called into the fog, you know, when we find ourselves in the fog, there's something about the way that we are driving that is forming our blockages, because it's not in alignment with what we're really good at, with what we enjoy doing. Falling in love makes like dealing with somebody's shortcomings a lot easier than having to just deal with someone's shortcomings that we're not in love with. So the thing that you love the most, when you have to get the skills, when you have to put in the time at the level of the skill gap, when you have to learn something and gain mastery on something, you have to love it. If you don't love it, it will torture you. And so you have to find that the thing that you're doing is something that you really, really, really love in order to make up the difference on that skill gap. And when we're doing something because we're in defense of, we have to show everybody how great we are because we were neglected, then we're not actually finding out that, like, wait a minute, no, I love, you know, cabin making, whatever it could be. Or if we are falling in love with somebody and we create ourselves in the image of our object of desire, then again, we can sort of fail at what we're kind of curating because it's not really serving the purpose of using our strength to get us where we're going quickly and with power. And I'm not saying that these are the things that is happening with this pile. I'm saying there's something like that with the fog for you that is obscuring your vision on where your strength is outrageously powerful. And so with the Sagittarius being about travel and Mars being about taking action and conjunction being about empowerment, when we look at this 4th house and Gemini, this is going to be my hyper-verbal people here with Mercury at the bottom of our deck, and allowing, and especially with the Innovator and Aquarius. So there's some communication that you're really good at. And a lot of you, like, I see you and I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, I wish you could see yourself the way I see you in a positive sense. Like, because there's some of you that, like, I do kind of see you on social media now and again. And like we actually need empowering friendships in order to get the right kind of mirrors, because again, it's really easy to go 100 miles in the wrong direction because of a need to be like understood. And so suddenly we're finding ourselves going to law school because you need to be understood, because nobody like understood when you were talking and you always had to over explain it, and you were just really dealing with a narcissist who didn't want to understand. But the whole reason that you went to law school is because for some reason the most important thing in the whole world is that you be understood, and then you were burning out every single week because you just wanted to be understood. So now we can work with this. We can kind of turn the tide on what it is to utilize the power that you have to get you where you're going. And the first thing that we need to look at here, you know, with the 4th house and the Gemini, we're talking about our communication butterflies, our hyper-verbals. What do you love talking about? What do you love talking about? And you like literally like take the room, like you can't stop talking about it. Okay, so now we have a special interest. What is that special interest connected to? Is it connected to what, right? Where did you first find it? What did you like about it? What made you feel alive? When you're operating from whatever that special interest is, like what are you doing? What is your process? Your process is going to tell you a lot, right? So if some of you are writers, are you doing a book report on somebody else's writing and then you're making it into new writing? Okay, wait, stop. You're a good writer, right? Let's start there. Where's the where are you being driven? So sometimes like we can be really good at what we are really good at, but we don't bring ourselves to it. So sometimes we form in the object of our desire instead of like what we really should be like connecting with in terms of ourselves. You know, that person has the qualities we want for ourselves, but what does that tell you? What is the process, you know? And then sometimes like, you know, we can go down the list, but there's also this other option of like, you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, but the way that you're doing it is self-abandoning, because bringing yourself into that writing is not necessarily like, there's something there, right? So let's take a look at that with the candle of hope. And the temperance, balance, healing. So our gifts are simultaneously like the things that are our greatest strength, but man, can they be our greatest weakness too? Sometimes we can communicate that we are fine and we don't need anyone and we're the best and everything is fantastic, and we can make our personality that. And we can literally like be like, that can be our driving force. And then we can burn out, we can fall apart, you know, we can have trouble connecting with friends, because that performance is so important, because our lives depended on it when we were kids, and there's a good reason for it, but it's actually not what you want to do more than anything. And so our guides are saying there's a lot that is communicated to you in the way that you do things. What is your process? How does the stuff come out? Where do you enjoy it most? Like, what are you using it in what way? So we have this fog because there's a necessity to sort of investigate. And the fog says that your sense of sight is kind of obscured. Your ability to see yourself in other people's eyes and see your gifts and your strengths in other people's eyes, and also your weaknesses in other people's eyes, is like a disconnect from relationship that is making you hard for you to chart your way forward in terms of where you want to go. You need mirroring. And so if you're not getting that exposure to like positive mirrors, like we can be really lost on what we're good at and where our strengths are and what process we have to bring to like, you know, maximizing that. And so with the Magician here being about like, there are tools here, and Temperance being about healing, you've got all the tools that you need in the way of your gift, in the way of your idea. What you have to do in terms of skill building, you can do if you're in love with the right thing. If you're in love with the right thing, you can manage the skill building. You're not going to burn out. You're not going to crumble. And you can go to the distance, because think about the river again that we saw. The river, it's powerful, right? It's mighty, and it goes fast, right? So that river is your talent, that's your giftedness, that's the thing that you're really good at. Now, contending with nature is like innovating. You need to build a boat. You need to have strategy. You need to build things into your schedule. You need to, sit down and learn the skill set. You need to go through the discomfort of what it means to find all the right pieces of wood in order to build this boat. Because once you get that boat, once you learn how to ride the bike, once you master, how to do all the shapes perfectly so that when you see an image, you can create the image. Once you go through the tough stuff, it's going to be a smooth sail. You're going to get where you're going. You will reach that level of financial stability. And if not financial stability, financial abundance. In all likelihood, financial abundance. Because you're operating at your giftedness. You get there fast. You have the advantage. But you do have to build the boat. And you can. But the magician has to take all of the skills. You've got all the tools, but you have to learn how to use them. So know that you have all the tools, know that you have the talent, know that you have the power of the river. But now you have to take the time and devote yourself to those tools. You can't do that if you believe that you're defeated, or you will be defeated. Because you may have been defeated, not doing exactly what, like all the ways that we are convinced and contorted and sold, the advertising that goes all day long into selling us on a life, on a role, on the right way of being, that disconnects us from ourselves and who we really are. This is an opportunity with that King of Cups to go deep, not only in identifying like where that power and that river for you ends up being, and it's going to be where your heart is happy. It's going to be the thing that you are so in love with that you're willing to go through the skill mastery for. That's a dedication. That's a love affair. The moon says you can't see your way forward. The Emperor says we'll take charge at the level of what kind of the fence here with set healthy boundaries. I really feel profoundly this, with Six of Swords and the Two of Wands. This group is dealing with heavily a problem of place, finding your place. And so when you think about, my giftedness is collecting butterflies and drawing them and then putting them onto stones and then like stenciling those stones into like wood pieces. And this is what I do, right? You know what I mean? So your guys are saying like, you might not know where to place yourself. You might not know where you're supposed to be. And there is a call, at a very practical level with your financial freedom here, there is a call for you to make a movement from chaotic waters into calmer waters. Like there is a definite call, given who you are, what you have to heal from. You need to be in a calmer place with what it is that you're trying to achieve. So if you feel like you need to be like amped up and Rocky Balboa and like you're going to bring the Rocky Balboa to the fight energy to what it is that you're trying to do, your guides are saying that is you're going to capsize. You'll capsize. You need the right structure. You need the right boundaries. You need to create a place where you feel safe enough to create. And so what it means for you to do that here, sort of very tangibly, is to begin by just acknowledging to yourself that, you're not really sure what's motivating you and why. 100%. Maybe you do know, maybe you don't know. But a lot of what came up for this group was like misdirected motivation. And so when we can really start with like, what exactly is motivating me? Sit with your cards and ask yourself the question, what is motivating me? I'm not asking you to go to a reader with this question. There's different utilities for different uses with divination in the cards. This is a question for you to ask you, your higher self, the aspect of you that is that unconscious space of possibility that is connected to everything that you are outside of time. You're going to connect with your higher self. You're going to say, like, what is motivating me? Because your blockage is what's motivating you. Because it's, for some reason, not what makes you happy. And if you have been so divorced from what makes you happy because life has been so hard, I understand. I'm with you on that. I know. But here's this cause for healing. Allowing the innovator is like tapping into your superpower around like, you know what you're good at, you know what you love, you know what you want to do. If you're divorced from that in one way or another, there's cause to reconnect. If you don't know how to reconnect, you begin to think about like, what are some innovations? What are some things that I can do that like spark joy, that aren't just about like driving myself to an ideal that I see that I want? Sagittarius is like, I want that for myself and I'm going to get it. That's the bullseye. That person is my bullseye. That person's life is my bullseye. You know, that job is my bullseye. You know, whatever. This is Sagittarius. It's not a negative thing. There's shadow and light to like all that stuff. But for you to set the motivation right is literally everything. It's not even about effort, because we think of effort as being a problem of motivation. It's actually a problem of desire. If you have a problem of desire, there's a call here to take action on what makes you feel powerful. Where are you at your most powerful? Where are you at your most gifted? Even if it's something that you are in some ways ashamed of. Some people are most like gifted in like the arts that are just more edgy. And so when we think about this King of Cups is like going real deep here on like healing whatever it is that, you know, so like that because there's a call to simultaneously identify what you truly want and then create a safe space for you then to like bring this into the world. And so the blockages for you in pile number 1 seem to be some level of confusion around what's really motivating you. And so that's where we're going to leave this, because, you know, allowing for this innovation is actually allowing for the development of a skill. You have a talent, you need to develop a skill. You love the talent so much that you're willing to put in the work. You want to be a unicycle rider, so that means that you have to learn how to ride the unicycle. Once you get it though, it's second nature. You're riding that river, it's fast. And your guys are saying this is the formula with your particular abundance, your financial freedom, is that you have to take that skill. And for some of you, there's real fog about what that is. And so, like, you know, task number 1 on your list is to investigate this very crucial thing. You want to be rich? Investigate what you love to do the most and what you are strongest at doing. And now ask yourself, like, is all of your energy going there to build the skill set around that so that you can take a rocket ship once you get that mastery around that skill set? That's the call here. And so with the Two of Wands being about planning, the Emperor about taking dominion over whatever it is that you find wherever you find yourself here with the skill. You guys are communicators, okay? So you're separated from, maybe you're a communicator, but you're separated for what it means to actually be like in community and communicating. Like there's a lot that has to happen here, because there's a need to empower yourself enough to feel safe to connect to others, because connecting to others is part of what this process of bringing this to light is. And so to get from where you are and whatever rocky waters you find yourself with financially to a place of stability financially, we need to identify your strengths very powerfully. And we do that by going to, like, and our parents talk us out of it. You know, if you're an amazing singer, you can't be a singer. Well, if you have the talent, then you have the power of that river. All you need is the skill set and boom, you're ahead of it. Right? And so pile number 1, that is your answer to this question of how do I get financial freedom? It's a skill set issue. You will rocket ship. You're going to learn how to ride the unicycle. I just see someone like the bike, right? And so we're going to leave that there, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, pile number 2, let's take a look. We've got Jupiter. And I love this card in terms of your financial freedom, because this speaks to like an expansion. And so, let's take a look and see what that means, because that's a very positive card. You guys are saying you are capable of tremendous expansion, but let's take a look and see like what is going on with the Two of Swords being about a blockage. So we're opening this with like, what are the blockages? And the Moon. So pile number 1 might be of interest to you only because we really did deal with this issue of like being blocked in your path at the level of not really being able to see like where you're meant to clearly go and how you're meant to get there. And so we did cover that in pile number 1, but it's showing up again in pile number 2 here with Jupiter, because when it comes to your expansion, the first blockage is not really being able to see how you do that, not really knowing how you actually like do expand on what you've got going on right now. And so sometimes that like lack of an ability to see your way forward in terms of expansion can come in at the level of, how am I going to have enough time? How am I going to have enough energy? Like if I have to do this, how can I do that? And so with the Queen of Swords being about mastery with language, and we have Mercury here, so there is this tie around, like, I think most of you do have some gift around language, and the Five of Pentacles being about poverty, and the Ten of Cups being about desire and hope and the love for whatever it is that you do. This is a hard pile, actually, because with this group of cards, and the bottom of the deck energy is Six of Pentacles. Pile number 2. It is very clear to me, you know, just at this glance, with the Six of Pentacles being about, it can be about generosity, it's about reciprocity, it's about getting what you're worth, getting paid what you are worth, getting paid for the work that you actually do, being properly credited, having the proper recognition. That is what that Six of Pentacles is speaking to, or just at least making enough. Because with Five of Pentacles, like, you're not making enough doing the thing that you love more than anything, and that can be crushing. Or you can't make enough doing the thing that you love, and that can be crushing. And so pile number 1, when we were talking about sort of not really having a hold on, like, what you love, and that being a blockage. In pile number 2, we have no, like, you know what you love, but the blockage is, like, the world is not accommodating your expansion. You know, like this Ten of Cups is saying, you have so much love to offer in whatever it is that you do, but it's not paying you. You know, that mastery that you have with words, and that Five of Pentacles is somehow you're getting left out of what it would mean to be properly compensated. And as a result, you know, there's a blockage. So let's take a look and see what we can do with that. Because Jupiter says that you will and you can expand in this. Virgo and the Self. Let's get a couple more cards. Okay, well, let's put this here. And then let's just see. Actually, like, and I almost felt like someone's wave of tears just then. With the 8th house here with intimacy. And the challenge. With the opportunity and the allowing. All right, so this is a great group of cards that we've got. In bottom of the deck, we have balance. And balance comes under the term opposition. So there's something that this failure of compensation is telling you. Now, with the opportunity and the allowing together, just move that over. And the opposition. So the challenge is, how do you get paid what you're worth? Now, this is like, this is going to be a huge problem for everyone, because we live in a, like, absolute, like, we have predator. Like, I'll try to keep the philosophy to, like, a minimum just a little bit, but we have a problem with the reality of an economy that is a predator. You know, in ecosystem, we went over this in pile number 1. In ecosystem, we have, like, the problem of the river, right? The river shows up and it's in the way, and, like, you know, there's this big powerful river, and if you cross it, you're going to get drowned because you step in it, and it's going to take you, like, you know, whitewater rafting, you know, without a raft. And so the problem of the river, you know, causes people to say, hey, wait a minute, this river is powerful, and if I want to get where I'm going, and I want to get where I'm going quickly, I want to use the power of this river. And in order to do that, I first have to understand that some things float and some things don't float, and that if I put the things that float together, I can stand on them, and then the river gets me where I'm going really quickly. And so the problem of the river becomes an innovation. So when we're dealing with an economy, and an economy is purposed to maximize cooperation for the whole, right? That's what it does. And if you're not cooperating and there's not that maximization, then we have problems, right? So that's ecosystem. That's ecosystem living. That's ecosystem mentality. That's ecosystem position. Economy is predator and prey, and it's subjugation. And your needs create, actually are the creation of somebody else's status. Your needs equals someone else's status, and that differential of power equals hierarchy, and that hierarchy is built on somebody being abused while somebody else benefits from it. And so that's predator. That's a predator. We don't have real predators. We have an artificial one, and it's an economy. So your predator sensations and your predator feelings are correct. I don't know why that came through that way, but it presents as a challenge, you know? And so when you're able to sort of acknowledge that you're, you know, up against a situation that is not built to accommodate what it is for you to offer your gifts to the world. It's not. If we were in an ecosystem, your gifts would be a value to everyone. They would understand that, and their gifts would be a value to you, and the exchange would be about cooperating to operate faster on a river, right? That innovation. But when that's not the case, and when you do find yourself in a situation where what it is that you have to offer and the love that you have to offer has to come against the harsh reality of it not being something that is properly compensated, the balance that has to be struck here is a little bit tricky. And so let's talk about this, because you've got an opportunity here that you're not seeing, that your guides want you to allow yourself to begin to take advantage of. And we're going to ask what that is. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. But whatever you're doing, it's not compensating you enough. And that's true. The power of your words and how much you love it isn't going to make somebody else pay you properly. That's never going to happen, right? So, and that's because of the economy that we're in is designed to discourage, like, everything, right? It's a virus, and it's a parasite, and it's a predator. And so how you find balance is you don't give up, you don't lay down, you don't say, I can't see my way forward because there's wolves in the way, or I can't see my way forward and I don't feel safe. You don't feel safe. That you don't feel safe doesn't mean shut down. That you don't feel safe because there's not somehow you're not getting appreciated properly. You know, you're being worked to death and nothing good is coming of it. There's a challenge here. You have to find some balance. We have to get intimate with ours. Like, we have to actually look at this 8th house thing. Because the answer to, I can't move forward, there's wolves in my way, I can't see, like, I can't figure out whether or not I'm safe, and so I can't proceed. We have to kind of begin to, like, think about an alchemy here. Balance and alchemy. We have to bring a balance and an alchemy to what this 1st house experience ends up being for you. The 1st house is going to be your physical body. It's going to be your outlook. It's going to be your self-image. It's going to be your life philosophy, your consciousness, your opinions, your expression. If this is wobbly and you're not even sure, like, if project number 1, say you want a career and you're like, I want to be an acrobat. Excellent. But if project number 1, like, if you don't know who you are, say you want to be an acrobat, that's excellent, amazing, we love this. But you don't know, like, but you don't know certain things about yourself, you know what I mean? Like, project number 1 is, who are you? Project number 1 is, what's going on with your physical body? Are you healthy? Maybe not. Some of us are born, you know, in a war. Some of us are born with a war physically that we have to fight uphill battles with. Some of us are born in poverty, and that's a different kind of, like, disabling thing. The physical body and our physical well-being is, we have a Pavlov's, you know, I don't know whatever that is. That's the dog. Our needs dictate how we're conditioned. That's true. But we have that Maslow's, I don't know, whatever it is. There's priorities, and priority number 1 here is just your body. Like, what's going on with your body? What's going on with your sentience? And then your outlook and your self-image. Like, these are things that we need balance here. We need to create some balance on what it is to present yourself, take care of yourself, know yourself, before we can go full bore in the direction of, I love this thing and I want it to pay me. Somehow these things are related, because there's a stability problem here. And our guys are saying at the level of investments of our energy, investments of our time, there's a balance that needs to be had where you are investing in your well-being and your stability, and, like, at the most, like, basic level of, like, are my things organized so that I can make use of them? This is where we have to bring balance. And am I, like, making a plan before I start the day in order to accommodate my goals with the way that I want to feel? That means leaving yourself enough time to pick out the outfit that you're going to feel good in, right? All of this kind of house cleaning stuff is not stuff that you have to, like, figure out the meaning and the mysteries of the world for. but it's a crucial component of what it is to get you properly compensated. And so your guys are basically saying, in terms of like your current blockages and how you disrupt those blockages, well, those blockages have to do with like, it's an unfair world, and there are wolves in the way, and I can't expand because it's terrible, right? And sort of acknowledging that and saying, okay, well, and I'm not getting compensated properly because people don't see me for who I am. They don't value me for who I am. They put me into a box and then they keep me there, and they don't give me my way. You know, like all that stuff happens every single day because we live in projection. So knowing yourself is how you avoid being swayed with every projection. And so your guys are saying, for you to get where you're going, you need a strong sense of self. Where is your financial freedom? Your financial freedom is in the same place that your strong sense of self is, because the two things have to happen together. Like, you have to have a strong sense of self to get to a place where you're really achieving financial freedom. Because the moment you get any kind of an asset, the vipers come out. They always do. They always will. That is the economy that you live in. And so don't shut down at that. Don't shut down at the presence of a viper, where we think about the river and innovating, and, you know, take the opportunity to think about what do you need to do to create this strong sense of self so that this goal can be accomplished. Because you have mastery over language. Done. Finished. You do not need to go back to the thing that you have mastery over and strengthen that over and over again. That is strength. Right there. Perfect. Beautiful. You have the skills and you have the talent, and there is mastery at the Queen of Swords level, and you love it more than anything. Mercury. I think we have like a lot of writers in here. And so you love it. Now, how do you find balance with this? How do you do the thing that you love and still get paid? We first have to, basic housekeeping. And the basic housekeeping isn't there because you like have to become a regimented person or else you're going to fail, and that's not who you are, and that's not your natural speed, and that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about your habits, although that's a big deal. We are talking about, like, what do you think you're capable of? Why do you think you're only capable of that much? What would it take for you to strengthen the muscle from point A to point B with your goal and what you want to do? And what are you going to learn about your capabilities in that process? And how can you now apply those skills that you gained, you know, to, like, there's such a building to the process of you having that financial freedom. You're not going to have that financial freedom with like the wish and then like a leap of faith. You're going to have that financial freedom in increments. That financial freedom is going to come to you in increments. And the way that financial freedom comes to you in increments is you start by gaining mastery or taking dominion over your physical material world at the level of taking control and dominion over the laundry. And I know how that sounds, and I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm telling you, you've got Jupiter here. You can expand, but you're not getting what you're worth, and you're going to have to start here with the Two of Swords blockage at the level of how to proceed. There has to be some strength that is and balance at the physical body, and I don't just mean like that you look like a paragon of health and you know like you could run in the Olympics. No, I mean your guys are pointing to a disharmony between like the center of gravity of self and what it is to attend to like building your life. Big wishes and no ability to attend to the practical applications. There's phobia. I feel phobia. The practical applications and phobia, this group who I'm talking to, a lot of times we see that with domestic violence. Domestic violence is when you grow up in such an environment of violence that the violence and the crime scene is your home, or the crime scene is your body. When the crime scene is your body and your crime scene is your home, it becomes very hard to manage a home and manage a body. And I know that that's kind of a big deal, but I think that when we see a disparity between what you're capable of with your mastery of a skill and your love for the work and what you're getting paid, and when we see that disparity there, then we also know that there's some other reason, that some other influence as to why this is presenting as a continuous problem. And yes, we live in an economy. It's a predator, but your guys are coming to say it's operating as a blockage, because we need to do some work on giving you like the foundation that you are taken care of at the level of self and home. Means that you are in a secure position to present yourself to the world and the project and the person and the thing that you're trying to do. And so we do have to think about your financial freedom as not being a problem of skill and love for something, but as being a problem of this is some stuff here. This is something you got to work out here. Like, this is not easy, but you will have this expansion. Finding this alchemy with Virgo here, with like ritualistic, efficient, healthy, dutiful, methodical. That's the call for your nervous system here. That's the call with your nervous system. And your nervous system's a big deal. I can feel it. I felt it. And I was trying to find the right kind of language around it. And so with the allowing and the opportunity, you know, for you to allow for the opportunity of that area where you are gifted to really begin to pay you, it starts at home. It starts at, like, because again, there's also this aspect of like, you know, we manifest with our unconscious minds. And so we have to attend to that. It's not what we want. It's what we are afraid of half the time that we end up getting. And so when we really begin to sort of like zero in on with the 5 of Cups, I feel like there's and I don't want to pull you into a place of like underwater or, you know, an emotional space that you may or may not be ready for. But most of us have unprocessed grief. And we've got Mercury as like most of the people who are in these, like the bottom of the deck energy ties them all together. It does. So there's something about your words and something that you have to communicate here. With the Queen of Swords, you have a mastery around words. You love to communicate, but the power of that communication, where we are going to see the reciprocity, where we are going to see you actually getting what you're worth with it, you're going to get the financial freedom and the value around your communication when you're communicating something that maybe you don't want to communicate. Maybe you're communicating really well at a surface level. Maybe you're communicating really well at a level that is just skin deep. Or maybe you're communicating really well just in the arena of like a special interest. But where the power in your communication is really going to pay you is when you're communicating where you've been hurt or what you've learned from that process. And so in order to do that, we need to have a safe, like stable sense of self. And that safe, stable sense of self is the blockage right now. Somehow it's getting in the way of you really bringing yourself to the surface. It might be a fear of being perceived, but bringing balance here, you know, the challenge is this place of intimacy with yourself and whatever that grief is. And the bottom of the deck is this 10 of Swords, like, whoa, whoa, pile number 2, whoa. You know, I'm going to actually like, you know, be with you a little bit here with that. That means you have, you know, 10 of Swords grief, especially with the 4 of Swords, you're healing from a 10 of Swords. 10 of Swords is going to be like a ubiquitous betrayal. And that can absolutely shatter you at the level of trusting the world. So 10 of Swords speaks of ubiquitous betrayal. You know, that's what that card means. It doesn't mean some other fluffy thing. Each one of those swords pins you to the ground. Somebody put them there. You don't stab yourself in the back. Somebody put them there. That's injustice. Communicating that injustice is going to be where you are at your finest. But it is going to require an intimacy with yourself. Why were you, what happened? Like, and I want to be really careful because I almost, you know, it was like, you might be having a fear about people saying, well, why were you there? Why did that happen? You know, like there's something there about shame. Why did you do that? You know, like there's something there because that happens when we have to, let me pause for 1 second and just have a little bit of water. You know, when we have to face our hardships or our grief, it's not hardships, this is grief. When we have to face our grief, especially when there's shame mixed in, we can dance around it, you know, like we can make castles around it, you know, to try to avoid where we have this desolate, beehive, and slumber. And the mirage. So a lot of times when we have, like I felt domestic violence, I'll be honest. A lot of you have that in common. I have that in common. So I know what it feels like. So I can really identify it when it shows up in a reading. That's where the crime scene is the body. That's where the crime scene is the home. And so the PTSD is tending to the body and tending to the home. Tending to the self at all will make you feel reactive because That's one of the things that happens with those sorts of situations. So, you know, whether that's your particular situation or you can in some way like see where that resonates. Because with the mirage here, you know, why did you stay? That's going to be like, because you want to answer that question though. That's part of what we're talking about here with the Mercury, is like these same accusation questions that would shut you down or keep you from speaking or keep you from like going into like that territory where there is shame. Like those same questions can set you free. So what, you know, why were you there? Answer it. Because when we're afraid of the accusation, like we can develop a defense of it as being like our personality. But when we can actually answer the question, and the answer to the question is one where, yeah, you might be vulnerable. You might, because I wasn't well, because it was a mirage. I was shown something and it was another, and I didn't know that. When we begin to answer the question of why we were there, why did that happen? Why did this person do this to me? Allowing that question to be something that you don't just run away from, or that you don't like just answer with a report or a stock answer, means like allowing for that voice to come through. Because you have the skills and the love for your art form or whatever it is that you are gifted at here, but you're not getting paid for it, and you're not getting the compensation for it. And there's something lost in translation at the level of communicating yourself. And so to find balance here is to actually say, you know, the mirage, you know, I had that 10 of Swords experience, but that's because I was looking at a mirage. Now we start somewhere with the healing process and bringing in balance and bringing in compensation. And I say that because it's like, it's not about putting your pain on display as some kind of an exhibitionist. Like that's never, and that's not like the way. But I will say with the Desolate here, with the beehive is about communication and working together and the value of somebody's story. Mercury is about communication. Jupiter is about expansion. That's being heard. The beehive is about working together with others in order to produce nectar, in order to pollinate the world. And a beehive is not just about serving the queen. It's about serving the ecosystem and pollinating the world. That's why the bees are doing that activity. It's not because they are in love with the queen. It's because they are purposed to pollinate. Bringing that like big picture in for you is going to be critical too. And so when we think about, you know, the slumber here where we're shut down, you're shut down at the level of your greatest skill because of some form of like the avoidance. But, you know, it's funny because I have to pull this card up and show you. You know, there's a person here sleeping with this little fox. Sometimes we can get really cozy with the numb states and the ways that we like are like any level of addiction. You know, when you go into that slumber, when you go into that place of like the liminal space, the not here and the not there, the dream space, that like when you're invoking or working with like energies that, I mean, a good example is just taking drugs to avoid your life. You know what I mean? Like, there's another one. You know what I mean? Like when you're kind of escaping from confronting what the desolate landscape of whatever that ends up being for you, whatever that hardship ends up being, and bringing that into communication and understanding that that's your purpose, and getting to this point where you're like, okay, well, you know, what is the challenge here? I keep shutting down, right? That's what it is. That's what I hear. So it's like your challenge is around like, you have this gift to offer the world, but you keep on shutting down. What is that shutdown? Why is that shutdown disassociation happening? What is the tripwire that keeps you from actually using the gift? Like, and it's this desolate space, this desolate experience, this place where your pain went unwitnessed. And so that healing comes in bringing the witness. You are that witness. Bringing the witness is about learning how to communicate that. Not because you, and you're coming up against like, you know, want attention. No, but because it was a mirage. And if you tell people that, then the beehive is better off because that mirage is not a problem going forward. And so that Ten of Swords has a real utility, and there's a trite way in which this is weaponized and used that we have to kind of overcome. Because you're going to see, like, you know, the throes of people trying to sell you on selling your story and the value of it. And that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not why you're doing it. And that is a charlatan sales pitch. But the value of the story of your life cannot be understated in terms of you making meaning and using that meaning to make your way forward from this place of desolation, from that place of unprocessed grief. We have to sublimate all of the easy exits that show up when you have the opportunity, allowing for the opportunity. Allowing for the opportunity. There's an opportunity for you to speak about your experience with this 8th house situation. Mysteries, secrets, erotic capital, inheritance, you know, stalking. Like, this is not good. Intensity, bad investments. Why did that happen? Because there was a mirage. But to get to that place where you can really begin to work with what that means for you, you also have to understand that there's an addiction that can come in when you press too close to a wound. So if your giftedness is speaking, if your love for language and writing cannot be like extinguished no matter what, but you're not able to get compensated for it because you keep on writing about all of the different dimensions and what they mean, because you love the writing, but you're not pulling from that source of wisdom that is the experience that requires you to go near the pain. And so your guys are saying you don't want to make a career out of going near the pain, but you don't want to make a lifestyle out of avoiding it either. And so this call to like look at what's going on here with your skills and your ability and this pain point that puts you into a slumber whenever you kind of encounter the opportunity to really tap into that flow state, has to do with the grief. It has to do with the subject matter around that grief. And this mirage, that there's some shame built in. And so I invite you here, because it's a challenge with the Ten of Swords. I mean, that's 10 of Swords. That's betrayal. Why did you let yourself get betrayed? Well, answer the question. That may be an accusation that you don't feel like you should have to weather, but if it's unconscious, if it's an unconscious influence that literally makes you fall asleep whenever you try to attempt like getting somewhere deep with your language, or getting somewhere finished with your language, because that's the same thing. You can start something, but you can't finish it. That's the same thing. For you to actually get to that finish line without the phobia coming up and causing you to run to whatever addiction is most comfortable, food, you know, drugs, you know, relationships that take you out of yourself. Competitions, points, scores, likes, clicks. If you're running from it, your guys are saying this desolate place, you know, there's something to connecting, and to do so, there is some like housework with Virgo and the first house. Who am I? What do I want to communicate? What do I need to communicate? Why is it hard? That's private, and I don't want to do. Is it private or is it a minefield? And so I'm not telling that you have to communicate this 10 of Swords to the world. That's not the message. The message is you have to communicate this 10 of Swords to yourself in a way that is mastery. Because then it might be effortless to communicate it to others, which is exactly what that Virgo and first house combination speaks to in the way of housekeeping. And so pile number 2, you know, there's an opportunity here in allowing for the experiences that you have in one way or another had the bravery and the courage to live through, that now need some vehicle of communication so that you can take this desolate place where you have unwitnessed pain and first witness it yourself, and then understand from that place of strength what it is to connect with that, because there's something of a mirage here. And so when it comes to getting compensated for what you really love, there's one part skill and talent and you love doing it, and one part you have something of substance to bring through it. And that thing of substance that you have to bring through it usually exists in a place where there's a minefield of coping mechanisms and strategies and addictions that keep you from communicating it. And some of that strategy might be like, oh, well, you know, the privacy, you know, the image, like I don't have to, like whatever it ends up being, you know what puts you into a slumber. And so there's a cause to like begin to kind of engage with it. And so pile number 2, I'm going to get a couple more cards because, like, you know, the message here, 10 of Swords, like, I'm not going to say that this is easy. And I'm not going to say that, like, you know, do 9 points and steps to total emancipation. Your financial freedom is, and this is what this reading is about. And we don't bypass these things because this is, you know, the work here. Your financial freedom, your capacity for expansion is through a process of self-discovery and self-strengthening and an encounter with your past, where whatever that mirage is, whatever that thing that you are having a hard time getting to the meat of seeing, that's your golden ticket and what it is to communicate that. Now, does that mean, again, exhibitionism? It's a, you know, book, it's a story. No, it can be a piece of art that is just a blank canvas with a circle around it, and everybody who feels the resonance of what you're communicating because you understand it and you figured out how to say it just right is going to be met with a catharsis and a healing from the meaning that you made. You don't know what that meaning of the meaning that you make. You don't know what you're going to do with the meaning that you make. You don't know. You don't have to like desecrate your privacy to make meaning, but the meaning that you make, you can either give that meaning away and that expands you by saying, I made this meaning of my experience and this is my experience and this is the meaning that I made of it, and now you're expanding. Like, it's either that or it's you make the meaning, and then from the meaning that you make comes a sense of self and a strength that allows you to have the skills to then bring this communication into the world. And it doesn't have to be a communication about who did what. It can be a communication about the nature of forgiveness as a ecological, you know, manifestation that you now recognize and understand and know because you made meaning of your situation. Part of that trap, of that slumber, of that shutdown is being a defense attorney against your own success, because it really violates your comfort zones, and not just your comfort zones, that's a trite way of putting it, like your pain points. And those pain points are home, because I feel that with the first house. Those pain points are the self, because I feel it with the first house. And there's shame there that needs to be sort of examined in the light of day, at least just for you. There's shame there that you need to like remove so that you can make meaning of the situation that is keeping you from allowing yourself to expand, that is keeping you going into shutdown, that is keeping you with the slumber. The challenge here is bringing in balance with that 10 of Swords. How do you bring balance to a 10 of Swords situation? 10 of Swords is you lost your whole family and everybody died. So how do you bring balance to that? If we're not going to let you shut down, and we're not going to let you shut down in poverty and oblivion. Instead, we're going to, in one way or another, acknowledge that you've achieved mastery, you have the skills, acknowledge that you love the work and that you love doing it, and understand that for you to get all the way there is to bring in the substance of the meaning that you make of that 10 of Swords experience. Financial independence is just that task, and it is a lot, but you are worth fighting for. There's no question about it. And if you don't think that you are, that's where we have to do the work here at the first house, because you are worth fighting for, no matter what your circumstances are. And so we don't want, and I know, I don't want to fight. I'm too tired. I get it. Stillness. Sometimes the fight is just making yourself still. Sometimes the fight is sitting with that stillness, because you need to learn how to like get mastery over the storms inside. And so that's not exciting. That doesn't get you instant recognition, but it is on the road to your mastery, and bringing wonder back into your life is first closing the door on your certainty about everything going to ruin and going to be going to ruin. Like, we have these mechanisms of defense where we put ourselves into a slumber, and it's the opposite of being open to opportunities and wonder and curiosity. And so when we have this stillness here, and we have this project here with the allowing and the opportunity, there's a processing of grief that comes in at the level of the 8th house, of your investments, of the intensity with which you did one thing or another, of sex, of erotic capital, of secrets, of mysteries, of obsessions, inheritance, stalking, ghosts. You know, there's some taboo, like there's some grief here. And why did this happen? And answering that question and really allowing yourself to answer that question and see the opportunity in the process of answering that question, in the meaning that is made of it, and understanding that your financial like freedom, you know, believe it or not, your financial freedom has a lot to do with being able to allow opportunities that are not easy or not easily accessible unless we do this work of creating this strong sense of self. And that's only with an intimacy and an understanding of your own story, and the way that you relay that can be anything. But it first has to be relayed to yourself, because again, that's where your inheritance is. That's where the 10 of Swords pays off in wisdom. And so pile number 2, there's a challenge in bringing a balance, because 10 of Swords is a lot to bring a balance too. But I'm confident that you can, because you have mastery over words and you have a love for communicating. And where you're not communicating everything that you have to communicate, we've got a 5 of Pentacles experience, because there's such a shutdown at the point of you're going to make effort and you're shutting it down. But that 6 of Pentacles experience, like ability to get compensated, comes from attending to this desolate place and explaining the mirage that got you there. Because when you bring that into connection, and it doesn't have to be, you know, and navel gazing, you know, it can be so many ways that you can communicate these things. You have your particular way of pollinating the earth, and that's where your abundance is. That's where your financial freedom is. And so pile number 2, that is what we have for you today, and I hope that that was helpful, and I will see you again soon. Okay, pile number 3, we have autumn. So with autumn, like it's almost like a pre-death. So it's sort of like when you're looking, like I see someone sort of like, we're looking at the cycles of seasons. And so someone's looking at a situation and it's gonna die and it's not sustainable. And like it like there's no keeping it alive. You know, the autumn comes and it is time for the leaves to fall. It is time for the grass to die. It is time for it to get cold. And you can start to see this process happen. And it's not the death of winter, which is where the transformation, where things are underground, where you're forced into this real change. It is that lead up and that moment of like succumbing to change. And so there's a change that you can kind of like feel coming or see coming. And so we're talking about your financial freedom. We're in this moment of autumn where something needs to die. Something just needs to die. And then the rebirth that comes of that is where your financial security comes in, or your financial freedom comes in. So let's take a look and see what you guys want to say about this process. With the Mercury on the bottom of the deck, with like, I always think that there's some tie there because it's the bottom of the deck energy. I do see that there's some communication here in this process. So with Temperance, Page of Cups on the bottom of the deck with the 10 of Pentacles, like we're talking about a opportunity that presents itself that is worth like the 10 of Pentacles. So 10 of Pentacles is like generational wealth. It's a tremendous amount of money. It is complete stability, and it's very strong. And with the Page of Cups, that's I always think of the pages as either children or, you know, it depending on what they're with, like they can be like the beginning, the entry point of whatever a thing is. And so with a project or a relationship, like the Page of Cups is like an offer. An offer of love. But Page of Cups is an interesting thing to see with the 10 of Pentacles, because an offer of love, okay. With the Page of Wands, again, this is going to be like something that comes in very quickly. The High Priestess and the Temperance here. Let's take a look. Let's see where this is going. The Page of Wands. And so we're talking about a blockage, though, which is interesting, because it seems like part of the blockage, and because the way that I'm seeing this is not a blockage. This is a blockage. So there's a blockage here at the level of like the timing. You have to be in this pre-death place. You have to be able to like look at the circumstances, the writing on the wall, allow yourself to say, okay, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to be doing this. This is not what's going to proceed. I can see that things are going to change, and they are. and it's going to be quick. And so your guys are saying that, like, you know, the blockage is less of a blockage and more like it has to be times right. The time has to be right. 9 of Swords, though, like this is something with headaches, nightmares, especially with the 7 of Wands, defense. High Priestess is something that is like known and unspoken. It is like it's the gnosis. And Temperance is coming in at the level of like alchemizing, healing, balance, but also angelic protection. So your financial freedom is protected. It's some kind of like angelic balancing. And this High Priestess is interesting. Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Yeah. Oof. This is very interesting. 5 of Pentacles. So I think that you might be in some sort of a 5 of Pentacles place in one way or another, with like your current blockage includes like the situation that you find yourself in. And that's going to be where you're like looking at whatever you're doing, it's not sustainable, or it's sustainable, but it's not. It's 5 of Pentacles. Like, and that doesn't have to be like a money thing. That can be like the quality of life experience day to day with whatever this is. You're like, no, change is going to be needed. Change is necessitated. It's like hard to say, isn't necessary. But you guys are actually stopping me at that word, because there's a choice here. There's something about like this change that seems like you are choosing to no longer accept 5 of Pentacles terms as being like something that I'm just looking at it. You've been holding yourself back a little bit. And this risk that is involved in accepting that there's a death going on, that something has to die in order for something to be reborn, that reborn thing, that new thing that has come, that comes from like letting something really go, letting something really die, is the financial free. That's where the financial freedom is. And so getting there is a little bit difficult with the 9 of Swords and the 7 of Wands, especially with the 5 of Pentacles. With the 5 of Pentacles, like, this is not enough. What you're dealing with is not enough. What you've dealt with is not enough. It has never been enough. There's never been anything there that can actually like give to you properly with whatever this exchange is. And so with the Page of Wands being like, what's happening very quickly is this gnosis is actually moving into like tangible re-alchemizing and change. And the opportunity they're in is one where you actually are now, I would say, like eligible, like, you know, like this process of letting this go and moving into whatever this new direction ends up being, like it pays off. 10 Pentacles fold. But 9 of Swords, this is nightmares. You know, 7 of Wands, like there's a lot of like defense around whatever that 5 of Pentacles experience was. And so when we see the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, it's almost like a life that wasn't properly started. And I'm feeling a hand on my back, and I think that that's significant. Like your life didn't get properly started. You didn't get to start your life. There was something that held you back. And so when it comes to really having like almost feels like a U-turn, or you like, this can be like a bad investment, and a bad investment can even be like a bad marriage, or, you know, like, or like a degree that doesn't get you what can actually sustain you. There's something here about like, you didn't get to, it was a false start, and it was a false start with some sort of like catastrophic consequences. And so when we see the Tower here in reverse as being, you know, no foundation, and we see the 8 of Pentacles here as like, your hard work did not provide for you a foundation. There was some sort of false start involved. And so this 9 of Swords is like, there's a lot of fear, tremendous amounts of fear around what you experienced or what happened here. And so this presents as a blockage, like significantly, and like there's a defense around like it's almost like accepting a 5 of Pentacles situation. Like the blockage is some level of a lifetime even, or just a habit, or just having only gotten to 5 of Pentacles and never really experienced beyond that. And again, this doesn't have to just be financial. It can just be like a poverty of friendship, a poverty of connection, a poverty of quality of life experiences. We see this ending, and we see this as not being sustainable, and we see you moving into very quickly something that you know have always known was meant for you. And this alchemizing and this temperance and this offer of love with the Ten of Pentacles is the complete opposite of what we see over here. And I'm just going to get a little bit of water. There's some sort of frustration that keeps on like barreling up for you. With that Nine of Swords, I felt it when I needed a little sip of water. So so I'm going to just tell you that I needed water. For some reason, I got really angry that I needed to like stop and just take a sip of water because my throat was getting really dry. You know, it's winter, the heat. So like, I think that you feel angry when you have a need. I feel like when you experience needs, there's some sort of anger that comes in, like that you're kind of driven by whatever this Five of Pentacles experience is, and this Nine of Swords sort of like, you know, fear of needs, just like a fear of needs. I don't want to need anything from anyone. I don't ever want to need. That's presenting as a blockage. And so when we see this like experience that you had here with the false start and no foundation, like with your work, and we can understand why you're so defensive here about like this process of an ending and a new beginning. And so you guys kind of want to speak to that tenderly, you know, sweetly, with kindness, and say, you know, that offer of love and that Ten of Pentacles is like, that's what's meant for you. And so whatever this false start was, or whatever this experience was, it did leave you battling really like difficult thoughts. It did leave you having to sort of defend yourself in one way or another as like a base, as your base place. Like, I don't want to say homeostasis, but like your like most basic emotion seems to be sort of this defense around whatever these experiences with poverty was. And so that's presenting as a blockage, but there's this counterbalance where your guys are saying it's okay. What's coming in quickly is going to create balance here. And so let me just see what this is, because I'm a little confused at just the difference. You know, but there's like where you are and what your guides are proposing in terms of your financial stability and you know, your financial freedom. And I never see a situation where you don't have to work for it, because I see that, like, you know, we create, you know, we manifest like in part by desire, but part of that manifestation and creating the energy that is needed for something to take off is when we put effort in. When we put effort in, we're galvanizing energy in the direction of the outcome we want. That's part of the magic. That's part of the ingredients. So I never see us not putting effort in. But there's something here that's happening that's like very confusing for me, because something comes in very quickly that you might have some intuition about. You might have a psychic hit. You might see something. Dream life. Yeah, envision your dream life. What would your daily experience be if you were living a dream life tomorrow? What is holding you back from experiencing this dream life? The High Priestess, she's in a dream state. But there's something that you have known, that you know, that you are tapping into at the level of gnosis, that is part of what's going to bring this balance here with self-discovery in reverse and repeat. Self-discovery in reverse and repeat. Something that you don't know about yourself, that you knew about yourself once before, is going to become very obvious to you. And there's something that you have dreamed or been dreaming about or been thinking about that's on offer. What? This is so like book it. Like, this is really stark and harsh, and this is really beautiful up top. But what is the bridge between the two? Something that you don't remember about yourself or know about yourself that's going to become abundantly clear. So when we talk about the blockages, one of the blockages is that something has to end, and you're seeing that it needs to end, and that's really scary, because it only gives you Five of Pentacles, and you're just like, this can't sustain like this. And in your mind is a lot of like tremendous amounts of fear, like a terrorizing fear, and a defense against the poverty, and like a false start, and like not a good foundation. Like, this is really bad, difficult stuff. And so in all of that, there's something that you have forgotten about your capacity, your capability, something that you know that we see as being your financial freedom, the Capricorn. With work and your outlook, and expansion. Okay, that's nice. From a place of your own stability. And there's a journey here at play. And so like there's something that is like a breakthrough that is very hard for me to pin down because it has a quality of like a fairy tale to it. And it does seem very rags to riches. And that's unique. You know, for a reading, most people, we don't get this. A general reading like this, like a collective reading like this, I'm really shocked. So there's some kind of an encounter here. I'm just going to look at this closely. There's something that you know, that you have in the way of like mystical knowledge with the High Priestess there. And as a result of that, there is a very valuable offer at hand that gives you a Ten of Pentacles kind of security. Temperance talks about this process of alchemy. So your process of alchemy really does yield. So whatever you, like, I feel like this thing that might not be sustainable that you know is dying, I'm starting to get like a very strong hit that we are looking at a way of being in the world, like actually like an internal space more than an external. Like, yes, the external circumstance may really need to change because like whatever's on the inside reflects on the outside. But this need to finally let go, to finally let die, really, truly let go of something, let something die. I don't know what that looks like. It's going to be different for everybody, but there is so much fear around it, and you might be defensive around it. But it's only ever given you Five of Pentacles. It's not going to give more. And so like whatever that reckoning is here, when you do this alchemizing within yourself, when you allow for this processing, this grieving, this letting go, when you allow for the discomfort of whatever the new way of being begins to sort of take form for you, because again, you're before death. You're seeing your situation. Something's coming up for you. You're able to notice that the change is happening, and you're going to have to prepare for it, and you're going to have to work with it. That process is what yields you this opportunity. Taking dominion over your life, changing your outlook in one way or another. That's why we see this difference. Okay, so it is an inside job. There's like, so the Five of Pentacles is can be a poverty of spirit, because I kept on being like, I don't know, like this might be pay, sure, but it doesn't seem like that. It seems like a poverty of spirit, like willing to accept crumbs. And there's something to that. And it comes from not having like proper experiences with relationships. And so the 7th house of relating with, and Sagittarius at the bottom of the deck with what I'm holding in my hand, like this whole section here, because I'm like, what's the bridge? What is the bridge between like this incredible opportunity that like yields Ten of Pentacles level of wealth? Like that is financial freedom. Absolutely. This comes in very quickly on the heels of whatever this, like allowing for the death, stepping into the death, like accepting the death, whatever that ends up being, brings you into such a place of enlightenment. And when you alchemize that, when you really alchemize that, this new birth with the Page of Cups is such an opportunity at wealth. But first you kind of have to look at the Five of Pentacles reality, and this Five of Pentacles is being left out. This is being treated poorly. This is being in one way or another not like hurt. And the thinking patterns with the Nine of Swords that come with that, the creating yourself in defense of. So when you think about working really, really hard, it's like working really hard in defense of what people might think about you, working really hard, you know, to show that you are worth something, even though your parents never said you were. Like that kind of being driven by your fears. That's where we have like a million false starts and never getting where you're going. That's where we have like working really hard, but not actually forming any kind of a foundation for yourself. Like that's this pattern. So when you step into your dream life, which you can have, it's a result of really letting go of these patterns of fear, these patterns of defense, and actually being able to sort of like alchemize, really, really alchemize these experiences that you're letting go of. It happens quickly. So at the level of relating, when it comes to Sagittarius being a new way of relating that is different and that allows you to like have more like depth of field and a greater experience of yourself, there is travel here. So the good news is, like, you know, you create a bridge here between like this like space of really reckoning. The Five of Pentacles says whether this is a state of mind and an internal experience or it's something that you're seeing outside of yourself, you recognize the need for change. Once you accept that, really come into a place of acceptance that whatever is going on cannot stay, that cannot be. When you like stop holding on, and for some of you, like, this is like putting off like going back to work until the absolute last minute. And going back to work might be like, I don't know where I'm going, but there's financial freedom in saying, oh, I'm going somewhere, I'm going to decide where I'm going, and I'm going to go there now. Instead of living in the fear and the defense of what could happen. It's taking some level of action here. And in that change, this major transformation. And so when it comes to like the relationships and the distance, like there's some real distance from where you are internally, mentally, and where you end up going and deciding to go the second you really just like let this die, this pattern, this connection to failure. I mean, honestly, like this is something that we all go through in one way or another. And so that can be like the communication you have with yourself that is like, nope, we're going to get up, we're going to take what we have and we're going to work it into something new. With the Page of Cups, it's an opportunity to reestablish. So something here is looking, there's like a rebirth that comes when you take dominion, take control. The seventh house is about partnerships, and the Sagittarius is a philosophical, like, experimental, like, this is where it comes in though, you know, it's the way that you relate to yourself, the way that you relate to your potential, the way that you relate to the challenge of whatever you're having to look at and say, well, I can't do it that way, I can't stay with this way, I have to jump into something new. That Sagittarius is about setting a goal and going for it. And so the way that you relate to your goals is going to change, and it needs to change. That's the blockage. That's what you need to really work on in terms of like what is blocking you from your financial freedom. Very particularly, these experiences of the past are heavily affecting the way that you relate to your goals. And so your guides are saying they want you to like, part of what it is letting go, letting what's dead die, is not bringing the past to the future so that you can tell the story of what might happen because of the experiences that you've had. Because that's where we see this like pattern here with giving up really fast. And so the Capricorn is like, you're going to have to work on something in terms of relating to your goals in a new way. And there is some assistance. That seventh house doesn't just speak of relating to your goals in a new way, of being in a good relationship with goals, period. Because it's like you're in a relationship with goals that tells a story about punishment. And your guides are like, it's not that. So relating to your goals in a new way. And there is also something to be said for like a relationship that is helping you with this. And so Capricorn is taking dominion over your life. And I think that that's where we step into this possibility for a dream life. And the dream life is something that, like, there's gnosis about this, and you have to connect with that. And so you may have some defense around what it means to connect to that, but changing your outlook, like that's this ascendant. You got like a worldview that really sees a shift that brings enormous opportunity for, like, this is your financial freedom, Ten of Pentacles. You will expand with this change in outlook. But there's a practical aspect here that can't be understated, you know, with the Capricorn. You have to be very like that. But so the practical stuff can be really painful when we don't relate well with our goals. So all goals entail labor, like birthing, and it's very uncomfortable. Like, we want to do that thing, we want to have that thing, we want to have that outcome, we want to be that person, we want to have that skill. But really putting the work in means you have to care. You have to really love it. And that this came up in the first pile. And so falling in love with your goals, you know, you're kind of invited to fall in love with some of your goals. You're kind of invited to dream up the dream life that you want, so that it's worth the toil. It's worth getting that skill set. You can put in the time if you're in love with the person. You can put in the time if you're in love with the goal. And so changing the way that you relate to your goals is literally like winning the lottery for you. It creates this alchemy around what you're able to create of your giftedness. And there's real expansion, but there does need to be a change at the level of Capricorn and practical. And that means relating to your goals in a way that makes the like grunt work of it sustainable. You've got the 9th house and you've got Capricorn here. And so there's an adventure. There's actually like, it seems like higher education might be part of this with self-discovery in reverse and the 9th house. Seeking new information, seeking new experiences, wanting to learn, pilgrimage, spiritual quests, aspirations, future self. I think you really are like this is something that you arrive at, but then have like to offer in one way or another. And so working with this inner critic is everything in terms of your blockage to financial. And like this seems like really obvious stuff, but I felt like the disorientation and the pain at the level of like these false starts. And so the work here in terms of like communicating with yourself, like this pile number 3 is about like changing the communication that you have with yourself. Because with this acceptance, yes, like you were dealt a bad blow. Like we accept that, you know what I mean? And we're not saying we accept it and we're going to internalize it and we're going to welcome it. We accept that it happened. We're not fighting that it happened. We're not trying to make justice where there's limits to the powers of persuasion. We're accepting that the way of being in the world, the way of orienting toward the world, the way of operating at this 5 of Pentacles place where we're not even trying to be let in anymore. That does have to change. And, you know, and so that's where we do have this work with the inner critic. But you're doing it. And you're kind of facing that this is not sustainable and that the change has to happen. And you're doing it. And you're doing it. And as you do that, we see this expansion. So, like, you're already involved in this. And so we're kind of, like, seeing this outcome anyway. Like, I'm not seeing you, like, divert from this work. Like, I don't see you agreeing with, like, the inner critic. So you're not agreeing with the inner critic. But I do want you to put what the inner critic says on paper. Take the inner critic's voice out of your head, put it on paper, and then I want you to call in your higher self to tell your inner critic to F the F off. I really do. I really want that to happen. I want to see that for you because your future self, your higher self knows where you're going and your higher self is leading you. And even though you're seeing something has to die, including something from the past, including something that you're in that's not sustainable, including the way of being in the world that was causing these shutdowns and causing these situations. And that might mimic the way that you were treated. That might mimic something that somebody did to you with the false start and no foundation and working for nothing kind of a situation. That may have been very true. But what's on offer here with this future self coming to say, okay, we're going to have a dream life. We're going to do it. We're going to go for it. We're going to shut these voices down and we're going to be the boss here with Capricorn. We're going to put the structure around. We're going to relate to our goals as something that we're falling in love with, that we love to participate in the action around. That is the change that is needed here with the blockage around financial success. That's it. And so let's get a couple more cards to just close out this reading. And we know that it's a mental thing, but you know, the nuts and bolts and the brass tacks of actually like making a decision, really making a decision that we're not going to participate in thinking or activities that are in opposition to our goals. That's like a commitment. And it's like a commitment that we make to ourselves because we love ourselves. You know, when you think about waiting for someone who's going to propose and bring you into the happily ever after of like romantic love, like we can sort of like think about these promises that were given when we're young that aren't just for romantic love, but it's for the romantic life with the right career. If we do the right things, we're going to get the right outcome. And when we have enough disappointments, we can stop having goals or wanting goals. But those were always lies to begin with, because it's like, yes, those things are on offer. Those things do happen. But the reality of what that looks like and as it plays itself out, it's more the mundane than the mystical and the magical and the ideal. And so when you have a relationship with the mundane where it's not punishing you, it's facilitating the passage between where you decide you want something and you get it, then it's not so hard. Thriving in reverse. Yeah, no, that was in reverse. Thriving in reverse. Let me get a couple more cards. So when we make that decision, you know, we're gonna take a different road, and we make that commitment, we fall in love with ourselves. It's like we're handing ourselves a proposal. We're handing ourselves a ring. And what we're saying is, if you want this dream life, we're going to make it happen. I'm committed to your goals. What are they? Instead of waiting for another person to come along or somebody to come along and offer this, which it seems like that's an offer. It's almost like make that offer to yourself and you will absolutely achieve what you want. And this relationship with not thriving, you can take action on it, because there may be 1,000,001 reasons why all of those people and all of those circumstances and the system itself was designed and thwarted your thriving. But you're being invited to look at this opportunity to think about your goals as something that you can tangibly overcome with the right and have tremendous amounts of fulfillment and abundance. So the abundance was upside down, and so was the thriving. And so these are the things that we're going to work on in terms of this freedom that's showing up upside down. The inner critic tells you all the ways that you're not free. You want to be a writer. Oh, you can't be a writer. You're going to have to, no, you have to work for UPS or something. You can't be a writer. What are you doing? Like, there's no, like, what about the health insurance? And how are you going to do this? You can't be a writer. The inner critic is saying, like, all the things that are going to get in the way of your freedom. Oh, you can't fall in love. Like, have you seen the mirror lately? Like, oh, you can't, this is the inner critic is telling you why you're not free. Oh, the economy. Look at the economy. Oh, no, there's not enough people that understand high art. Oh, no, like they don't, there's too many thieves, all this stuff. Come on. The critic plays on loops all day long. If you let that radio station go all day long, it's going to go all day long. And so if the radio station is the radio station of all the reasons why you're not free, I want you to turn it off. Because that's what you're being asked to do at this reading. And if your opportunity here is to walk away from an experience of life where you just can't find your way towards thriving. Now, yes, there's the radio station of reasons why not, but there is an opportunity to thrive. That's what we're seeing in this reading, with letting something go, letting something die, allowing the cycle to complete. Very quickly, there is a intuition. There's something that you want to do that you're meant to do here, that alchemizes at the level of opportunity for you to have that financial success. Opportunity comes out very prominently with thriving. And so I see that it's there. There's an opportunity to have a different experience than the Five of Pentacles experience. And if your answer is no, there is not, then I question how devoted in faith you are to that belief, because belief is permission, and belief has the power in a placebo study every single time to prove itself as being fatal if, like, it's nocebo. You know what I mean? Like, there's something there, even at a scientific level, that I want you to pay attention to when we are certain about things like that. There's an opportunity to have a different experience than the Five of Pentacles experience, the radio station that tells you otherwise. Turn it off so that we can pick up a new station. It's called your dream life. And so action needs to be taken for us to get there. And so for that action to be taken, we can't be playing that radio station at all, because we can't believe that there's no abundance while we put all of our work into it. And we can't just accept that the Five of Pentacles is where we want to stay. And so this being in defense of the radio station that says that you are not free is not helping the process of alchemizing this new opportunity. And so to alchemize into a place where you are receptive, where you're in the receiving place, where the radio station isn't blaring your lack of freedom so loud that you can't hear the signal that tells you the doorway out towards it, we're now going to change that frequency to, I am going to be, Page of Cups, offered this opportunity. Are you going to sit there and you're going to wait for it and you're not going to leave the house because it's coming? No. Every single time we manifest, every single time we want something, our guides are able to give us prosperity, not in relationship to the depth of our desire and our insistence on calling it in. Because again, it's the unconscious mind that manifests. And so if we're manifesting from a place of fear, I can't be poor, I won't do it, that's a blockage. And so when we get to this place where we can take the opportunity to thrive and know that there is an experience beyond this Five of Pentacles experience, but we're going to have an attitude adjustment, and we're going to set a goal, and we're going to have a relationship with our goal where we are in love with it and devoted to it. And therefore, when we have to go through the trouble of gaining the skills, and we saw this in pile number 2, I think it feels good. It doesn't feel like it's too much to ask, because we have a belief in the abundance that will come of our effort. We're not putting our faith in a Five of Pentacles place. And so that shift in perspective, that's kind of what we're looking at. And yes, it's a reach. Like, that's right. It is a reach. You're right. It's a reach. But what's the alternative? Because we're being told here that when you relate to your goals in a new way and you begin to fall in love with that goal, it's a labor of love. And that change in outlook creates this expansion. But yeah, there's some practical work that has to be done here. Like, there is a little bit of a distance. But shutting down that inner critic is almost 90% of the work with Mercury at the bottom of the deck. And so that fulfillment and that abundance is yours with belief and a goal set and hard work. Yes, that's, and I know that the economy is crashing. Like, I'm very well aware of the precipice that we all find ourselves at in terms of like just what's going to, like, we're seeing the world have to change. We're seeing the world in an autumn kind of a moment. Like, yes, absolutely. But it's not putting our faith in hard work equals good pay. It's putting our faith in there's something that you were born to do here, that you carry within you at the level of gnosis. And when we accept that what is not for you is not for you, and that what didn't work out wasn't meant to work out, and what it's going to mean for it to work out, there's a lot to this process. But you have to step away from the Five of Pentacles stronghold belief, because it creates confusion, like Seven of Cups and the Moon. It creates confusion in the process of what it means to actually follow up on a goal and get to the finish line, when there are all these interruptions between where we start with the goal and where we give up on it because we weren't in love with it enough to go through the hard part of nurturing it into existence. It was like a baby that was crying so much and we didn't even know why we had it. And, you know, eventually we just walked away from it and didn't get fed, and it stopped calling us to the table. And so where we see this treasure trove that you have accumulated, that your guides want you to be able to make use of, the tree remembers you have roots in something really valuable, and that opportunity is there. And so it's really a strong change of heart and letting go of a way of being and a perspective, being married to defeat in one way or another, and really setting that commitment with, I can love my goals, I can be in love with the future self and the future life that I'm going to create for myself. I'm going to propose to myself a wedding and say, whatever you want, I will work for it. I will make it happen, because that's how much I love you, and this is our life together self. To propose to yourself a job, we are going to have this. We're going to have this no matter what, because it's like not about like pushing something. Because in the first 2 readings, I almost feel like this reading, you need to listen to the first. I'm not trying to tell you you have to listen to like longer things, but the first 2 readings really dealt with everything that would lead to this sort of a moment. You know, it sort of dealt with like the stuff that you kind of have to come up against before you say, you know what, I'm not going to do this old way of doing it anymore. No matter what I'm looking at in the way of life circumstances, I'm going to be a champion in my life. That's it. End stop. Period. I'm going to be a champion in my life. I'm not going to be driven to destruction with competitive addiction. You know what I mean? There's ways in which you have to kind of talk to yourself about like the right and wrong way to attend to getting to your goals. You only can fall in love with a goal that isn't a tyrant. So don't make your goal a tyrant. That's part of the part 1, I think. I think pile number 1 kind of deals with that. And so I do invite you actually to look at the other readings, just because I think it leads here. But a change of heart and a change of mind and a change of orientation and a change of the way that you regard your goals and you regard opportunities and you regard life leads to your 10 of Pentacles experience. That is how we remove the blockages and achieve financial freedom for you. So pile number 3, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope that that was helpful, and I will see you again soon.